Look at these guys. They don't even know where I am. Sucks to suck, boys. Sucks to suck. I have night vision and you do. Uh-oh. What's that?
I see enemy!
Oh, god damn it. Alright guys, Commander Keen back again with another Ground Branch video going over more of what you need to know to get started in the game. Today is going to be episode 3. We're going to go over how to kit out your guns. We're going to go over all of the attachments, including optics, just to help you guys get sorted out so that when you're going into the mission, you are kitted out properly and in a way that makes sense and sets you up for success. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Alright, so from the main screen, we are going to go to Customize Operator. We're going to go in and select our primary. In this case, it's this Mark 18 that I've started with. And then we're going to click on this little gear here. That's going to take us to the Customize Item screen. And then from here is where the fun starts. Now let's talk about kitting out your rifle. Now, that's going to be something that, again, is subject to the mission you're on. It's subject to the role you are in the team, whether you're playing with the team, the map you're playing, your play style, whether you want to go in quiet or whether you want to go in hot, how aggressive you're going to be. There's so many different considerations, but we're going to go over a couple of them here to help give you a baseline of what you should expect is going to be the end result of any given way you kit out your gun. Now for this example, we are going to use the Mark 18 because it's the best damn gun in the game. That's not a fact, that is my opinion. Don't get mad, just use the Mark 18. We're going to use this as our baseline because as far as I'm concerned, this is the absolute middle ground between an SMG, an AR, DMR kind of thing. This is the middle ground. This is the happy medium that everybody should find comfort in, is the Mark 18. So that's why we're going to use it as our base gun. If you don't like this and you have a good explanation why, leave me a message in the comments below. Tell me why the Mark 18 is not the best gun in this game, and I'll explain to you why you're wrong. The first category we have here is lights and lasers. You can see here we have a number of them. Now, not everybody is going to know guns in real life or know kit or know gear and know what these are, so let's go through this. The first one we have is the AN PEC 15 in either black or tan. Of course, the differences between these two are simply cosmetic, but we'll discuss, we'll take a look at each one so we can see how it looks anyway. So you can see black, and here's tan. Let's stick with tan because FDE is cool. So, the PEC 15 is a little box, which is why some people call it a PEC box. It's a small little box that emits an infrared laser that is not visible to the human eye, a visible laser that is visible to the human eye, and it has an infrared illuminator on it. Now, the usage of this over something like just the visible laser is dependent on whether or not you need infrared light. The only instance where you would need infrared light in this game is if you are running night vision. If you are not running night vision, the infrared laser and illuminator are not going to do you any good. You are better off saving weight by pulling it off and putting on just a visible red laser. It'll take up less weight, it'll take up less space on your gun, it'll weigh less, and it will not occlude your vision as much. It will not occlude your peripherals as much. So unless you are running nods, don't worry about the PEC 15 unless you're trying to look cool, which is okay because looking cool is half the battle. Now coming down from there, we have tack lights. We have 3 different options here. Each of these lights in the real world are fantastic. I either do own or have owned one of each of these at some point, and they're all fantastic lights. The M300C, the M600V are both made by Surefire, and the WMLX is made by Inforce. As far as the game is concerned, that makes no difference whatsoever. I just wanted to tell you because it made me feel smart. So coming over to the M300C, it is a smaller form factor gun. It takes up less real estate, and it doesn't stick out quite as far when mounted in the forward-most position. This can be nice for various reasons within the game, one of them being barrel shadowing. or the color tone, which I find to be slightly different between some of these lights. However, this is generally my go-to for a short-barreled rifle like this, is this M300C. As per the rest of your customization options, you can put it in a number of different places on this rifle. However, remember that where you place it will have real-world consequences within the game. Moving over to the next light, we have the 600. Now, the 600V, the V for Surefire lights actually stands for Vampire, which means that this light in the real world can emit infrared light as well by pulling. I believe you pull on the bezel, twist it, and then lock it back down. I don't think that functionality is in this game yet. However, this does have an advantage over the M300 in that when you put a suppressor on this, you can space this light out farther because it's a longer bodied light to reduce some of that barrel shadowing that you get. The last light on our list is the WMLX. As you can see, this light has a very different design from the other two Surefire lights in that it has a angled push button on the back and a clamp rather than the thumb screw style on the Surefire. While they're purely aesthetic for this game, you might not like that look, or you might like this look. I have one of these lights in real life and they're fantastic. Important to note, not that it makes a difference in the game, this is a polymer bodied light, although there is an aluminum one that can exist now, but this looks like the polymer bodied light with the standard clamp. You can also see here a little sharp-eyed detail that they've added is this toggle switch, which in real life allows you to swap from white light to infrared. We're going to talk about barrel shadowing. Barrel shadowing is where your muzzle device or some part of your gun occludes part of the light output by a light. So in this example, we're going to have an M300C offset from the back. However, it is as far forward as it can reasonably go without being off of the rail. So as you can see here, this light that's projected forward, everything that's in the way of this suppressor is going to cause a shadow. So taking a look with this gun and this light, you can very clearly see on that green box that there is a shadow. Now, what does this mean for real world use? Well, what it means is wherever you are pointing your firearm with the light, if you choose to run a suppressor on it, you're going to have to deal with barrel shadowing. Now, directly in front of us where we're looking at these targets, are they lit up? Absolutely. We do also have a lot of ambient light to consider, but we can see our target directly when we light them up. However, this area off to the left, just underneath the number 1 on that bay, you can see that there's a big shadow. This is something that we need to pay attention to, because if we have a target in that area, they are not going to be as well lit as the area directly in front of us. You need to make considerations for that, because that could influence you at some point in your gameplay. Now, if we are to mount this flashlight on the left-hand side of our rail, we're going to project a shadow onto the right. If we mount it directly underneath, the shadow is going to be above us. I don't know why you would do this, but if you mounted the light directly up top, the shadow would be down below. It is unavoidable. You can mitigate part of it by using a longer light or removing the suppressor, but that doesn't really solve our problem. You need to make considerations. You need to know that this is going to happen and plan accordingly for it. Coming down now to rails and mounts, we have our standard stuff here, risers and extenders and offsets. If you really want to have a riser on this to lift up your optic a little higher, you're more than welcome to throw one on. Again, you can mount it pretty much wherever you want. I don't really see a lot of utilities in these unless you are really trying to get your optic up high to clear over top of a PEC box or something. But most of the optics in the game, the stock mounts clear it for you, so there's not really a whole lot in here that I recommend using every single time. Now, risers aside, you might have noticed that in this cluster of risers that we have this offset rail here. Now, what's an offset rail used for? An offset rail is used to, well, offset something you'd put on a rail. So what we would use that for is if we were running on our gun, say a larger footprint optic. we want to have a secondary optic on here, say a red dot. In this example, we're going to use an RMR. Let's say we don't want to mount it up on the top. I personally do not like the RMR on the AccuPower because the scope cap gets in the way of your optic a little bit. Let's say we want to mount it at a 45-degree angle. We'd come up here and grab an offset rail, and then you can see you can tuck it in pretty much anywhere on the rail over here. We'll put it here just for the sake of argument. Then you go down to your optic, and then you need to start looking for optics that are compatible. Let's go with an Aimpoint Micro T1. There we go. So we've successfully mounted this dot. Now this is not where I would actually mount it, but for the purposes of this video, this is where we're going to mount it. So why would we do this? Well, there's a secondary method of aiming on this rifle now. We can use the scope as a traditional sight, and now we have the ability, pretending that this is in our shoulder, to rotate the gun approximately 45 degrees to bring the optic offset now in line with our eyesight. This allows us to have a very fast way to transition between a magnified and a non-magnified optic. So to help visualize, I actually have a rifle set up with such a setup for that purpose, so I'll do my best to illustrate this. So here's the rifle that I've got. You can see that I have a large traditional scope on this, and I also have this offset red dot here mounted on a 45-degree mount. So when I am pressed out on target and using a traditional scope, let's say I want to quickly transition to my unmagnified optic for a closer up shot. Rather than having to dial down my scope to get to a lower magnification, all I have to do is turn the gun 45 degrees inward. That's it. I can go from a fully magnified optic, this one goes up to 10 power, all the way down to a single red dot just by turning the gun slightly inward. So they've given us a method to do that in the game by adding this offset rail. Coming over to optics now, we get into a little bit of a personal choice thing. Now, your mission will dictate what kind of optic you want, or if you're going to run irons, but really it boils down to personal preference. Each of these options have in common the same thing. They all help you decide which direction your gun is pointed and where your round is going to go. It's just how you get there, and that's your call. You need to make that call based on your playstyle, your level of comfort, and the map you're playing. We have some longer range options like the Trijicon AccuPower, the ACOG 4 and 6 magnifications. We've got the big 12 times magnification scope, and then we've got the huge 5 to 25. I think that's an S&B if I remember correctly. We've got the 1 to 4 variable Spectre, or in Canada we call it an LCAN. You've got the 1 to 6 Voodoo, which is my personal favorite, and then you've got red dots, you've got magnifiers and everything in between. It's personal preference. Whatever is going to work the best for you is going to work the best for you. I'm not going to go through every single one of these and analyze, how much magnification it gives you versus how much screen coverage to see scientifically what the best option is. You're just going to have to play with them and see what works for you. However, what works for you on Creek might be different than what works for you on Tanker. So discover each of these options by playing around with them and seeing which one is your personal favorite. Now, as far as the way I like to set my stuff up, I like to set it up in one of two ways. I have medium to long range engagements and I have short range engagements. Now, for medium to long range engagements, my personal favorite is the EOTech Voodoo 1 to 6. Now, there's a reason for this. I prefer the way that the RMR mounts to the top because I enjoy having an RMR mount, and this scope cap does not occlude the window of the RMR like the 1 to 8 does. I'll show you guys a clip of that video here now. My personal preference is this 1-6 Voodoo for mid to long range engagements. Now, the nice thing about this is you can see that there is a flat mount on top that you can drop an RMR onto. I believe you can drop a T1 on as well, but my favorite is the RMR. This is my favorite optic setup for medium to longer range engagements. Now, as far as close range engagements go, my favorite optic of choice is the Aimpoint Pro. I think it is the best balance of optic height to window size to overall optic size. For my playstyle, this is what I go for my short range engagements where I don't need or want any magnification on my rifle, or I don't want to pay the penalty of having my overall peripheral view blocked by a larger optic. Now, talking about magnification levels and their usefulness, we're going to have certain instances where lower magnification or fixed magnification is going to be of benefit, and we're going to have other instances where higher magnification is a benefit. Let's start this out by utilizing my personal favorite for medium to long range engagements, the EOTech Voodoo. Now, the first thing that you are going to notice through this scope on single power is that even though we're only on a fixed magnification, this is taking up a lot of space. Look at how much of our screen this covers. We're probably half of our screen is covered. This is because our eye has to be right up to the scope in real life to see through it. This is not a holographic magnification device that will project our dot at any eye relief distance. We have to have proper eye relief set up, and right now it's set up pretty close. We need to get up really close. This is what our field of view looks like through the RMR mounted at the top of our rifle, and this is what it looks like through the scope. So considerations must be made to run this optic set. You need to know that when you look through the scope, your peripheral vision is almost gone outside of directly what you're looking at. And that's just how it is for the scope. That's how it's got to be. So the benefit of this type of scope, of course, is that we have magnification. This is a 1-6 power. So starting out at the lowest magnification and going up to the higher, you can see how this might be of benefit to take longer shots over something like a fixed red dot sight. So where this penalizes us, however, is our field of view is very small. We have this whole range in front of us. However, the higher we magnify, this is as far in as we can see. We lose all of this visual real estate here where anything could be happening. We could have a number of things happening, but we lose sight of that when we zoom in all the way. Now, the nice thing about this scope is you can have single power where we have this nice wide field of view and everything in between. You can find your happy medium. Let's say 3 power is your happy medium where you can see enough of the map where you're okay with this and you get a little bit extra range over first power. The reason why I like this scope so much is because I can start the map and dial it into 6 power immediately. I just start out immediately, dial it to 6 power. Then I can rotate my weapon down and I can go down to just a red dot. This opens up a ton of my field of view. I can do a lot of CQB work with this, where this isn't really conducive to CQB work. This is more conducive to long range shooting. CQB, long range, CQB, long range. All I'm doing is rolling my finger up one or down slot on my mouse the way that I have my keybind set, and I can go from long range engagements to short range. Long range, short range, long range, short range. Super handy, which is why the 1-6 is my favorite, and the MK18 is the right thing to put it on. Now, as far as red dots and holographics go, the main consideration that you need to make is that you only have 1 power. There's no magnification on this. However, you'll notice it takes up a lot less of our screen, which opens up your field of view. But we don't have that magnification. This is it. What you see is what you get. So from here, you're really going to be choosing between the preferred reticle and the housing that it's in. How much of that housing takes up your screen, and how useful is the reticle that you have selected for your personal preference or your mission. Now, we can't talk about scopes and red dots without getting into magnifiers. Magnifiers are found in the sight section, and if you scroll down, you will see the G33 magnifier 3 power. So you click and drag this so it is mounted behind your optic. I try to get it as close as possible. You click apply, and you're ready to go. Now, the cool thing about the magnifier is you can see it's off to the side, it's kind of in the way, but if we flip it forward, we just went from 1 power to 3 power. Looking at the number 4 in the distance, that is 1 power, that is 3 power. So say we are looking to engage this guy in the very far back. It's not really a perfect sight picture for that, but flip on our magnifier, we have much better long range visibility. Now, these are very handy. You have the best of both worlds. You can go short range or long range at the touch of a button. However, here's a consideration. Look how much of the side of this screen that this thing takes up. Look how much real estate of our visual plane is covered up by the magnifier. This could present problems. So you need to decide whether or not you want to give up the visual real estate of your peripherals, or if you want to have the ability to flip your magnifier and have that nice 3 power view. Moving down in the attachment screen, we have under barrel options. At this current time, these are purely cosmetic. Moving forward in the future, these will have a purpose. They will have different stat changes. The bipod, as you can see here, is non-functional. It will be functional. For right now, these are purely cosmetic. My favorite is the angled grip, mounted far forward, but that's just mine. Do whatever you want, but this is just for looking cool. Second from last, we have muzzle options. Now, there's 2 options. You can have a suppressor in black, or you can have a suppressor in flat dark earth. These are going to reduce the report of your gunshot, and the enemies are going to suffer a perception debuff. When you are firing under this, you will be more concealed to enemies. They will have a harder time locating where you're at. It is of great benefit currently to use suppressors, as to the best of my knowledge. These currently do not give you a penalty on collision with doorways, walls, enemies, and such by having the suppressor, but in the future, they will, so get in and use your suppressors penalty free now. And the final option on this list is magazines and ammo. You can see we've got a couple different options here. We've got the standard P-Mag, we've got the 35 round magazine with the base plate, and then you've got the metal Stanag magazines with the, I believe these are Magpul, I don't remember what they're called, not Ranger plates, something. I don't know, I don't like them. Plain P-Mags, done, call it a day. Looks fine. Cosmetic differences aside from being able to have 5 rounds more in here. Statistically, is that a better option? Absolutely. You should have as much ammo as possible. However, I don't like the look of it. Looking good is half the battle. I prioritize looking good over 5 extra rounds. Is that a mistake? Potentially, but nobody ever said I was smart. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this one. I think we've touched on everything we need to. We went over every single weapon attachment in the game, every type, what all their functions are. We spent a lot of extra time on optics, going over what works and what doesn't for given situations, and some considerations that need to be made when selecting your optic for a mission. If you guys liked this video and want to see more, please drop a like, follow, subscribe, or some comments down in the comments field. I love chatting about guns and gear and can do it all day long. So give me something to talk about. Let's figure out what our next video should be. I'm going to keep going with this series. I'm having a ton of fun of it. If you guys want to see more of my content, you're welcome to come and check me out live on Twitch. I'm there Monday and Wednesday evenings, so come and check that out if you'd like. If not, stay tuned for the next video in the series, and until then, may all your rooms be corner fed. Thanks, everyone. Ghost.